Greetings, everyone. Tonight, we're stepping into a world that's ancient, brutal, and oddly familiar. A realm of chamber pots, overcrowded tenements, and endless toil. This isn't the Rome you've seen in glossy films or marble museums. No emperors, no gladiator jewels. Just the relentless grind of survival in a city built on the forgotten backs of ordinary people. Before we descend into the underbelly of the Roman Empire, take a moment to like this video and subscribe if you're into this kind of raw, slow-burning storytelling. Drop a comment about where you're watching from and the time there. I love seeing how far this little sleep experiment reaches. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan, or settle under the covers, because you're about to wake up in ancient Rome, and chances are, you won't survive till nightfall. Congratulations. You've just woken up in ancient Rome. Not in a palace, not in a marble villa surrounded by fountains and toga-clad servants feeding you grapes. No, you've landed where most people lived, where plumbing is theoretical, walls crumble at the slightest disturbance, and your upstairs neighbor stomps around like a gladiator on leg day. Welcome to the insula, Rome's version of an apartment building. Sounds promising, right? Maybe you're picturing a courtyard or a sliver of sunlight. Think again. The Latin word insula literally means island, and that's your first clue. You're stranded. You're on the 4th floor, if you're lucky. Anything higher, and you're basically living in the rafters of a fire hazard. These buildings are held together by brick, wood, and sheer wishful thinking. They sway in the wind, lean against each other like drunk friends, and have the structural integrity of stale bread. And speaking of bread, forget about making toast. Open flames are banned because one cooking mishap could turn the entire block into a Saturnalia bonfire. Your room is the size of a modern walk-in closet. There's a cot, if you can call it that, woven from rope and straw, and a threadbare blanket that smells like every person who's ever used it before you. The walls are damp, stained, and so close together that if you lie on your side, you can touch both without moving. No windows here. Light sneaks in through a crack under the door and a hole in the roof, punched accidentally by a broom handle 3 tenants ago. Privacy? Non-existent. You share this space with 2 others, one of whom coughs with such dramatic flair you'd think you were living in a poorly written tragedy. Spoiler, it's not drama. It's probably tuberculosis. Outside, morning doesn't begin with birdsong, but with the rumble of wooden carts and the melodic shouting of vendors hawking olives, fish, and something that might have been a donkey in a former life. The beast brays like it's dying, children wail like they're dying, and someone's already arguing about taxes 2 floors below. You stretch, bad idea. Your back cracks like a papyrus scroll in a drought, and you instantly regret pretending your spine hasn't been bent into a question mark by years of hard labor and a diet of beans and regret. You're about 27, which makes you one of the older folks in the neighborhood. Most people don't make it past 40, thanks to injuries, infections, or the mysterious fumes leaking from the latrine pit every summer. You shuffle out of bed, barefoot, of course. Shoes cost money, and if you had money, you wouldn't be here. The floor is cold and sticky. Is it wine? Urine? Olive oil? Probably all 3. You step over your neighbor's sleeping form and try not to kick the communal chamber pot. It's full. It's always full. Time to relieve yourself. You've got options. The chamber pot, which will soon be dumped. Drumroll, please, straight out the window. There's a system. You're supposed to shout cave. Latin for watch out, before launching its contents onto the street below. But let's be honest, nobody does. The streets reek of urine, feces, spoiled food, and dead dreams. The gutters are open sewers, and if you're lucky, the rain hasn't washed the filth back to your doorstep. Hygiene. Adorable thought. No showers, no soap, no toothpaste. You might wash your face at a public fountain, if you don't mind sharing the water with 14 others and a stray dog licking its wounds. You scrape your teeth with a stick, maybe rub some ash on them if you're feeling fancy. Your breath smells like fermented lentils and existential dread. You pull on your tunic, your only one, made of rough wool or linen, stained in ways you've stopped trying to decipher. It reeks of mildew and human sweat. No deodorant, no underwear. You tie it at the waist with a rope and pray it holds. If not, congratulations, you've just invented public indecency. Not that anyone cares. Modesty in Rome is reserved for statues and upper-class poetry. Stepping outside is a sensory war zone. The street is packed. Vendors scream, beggars shout, oxen defecate mid-step. Flies swarm over fish stalls. A rooster is being murdered, or maybe it's just expressing itself. Someone's cooking something that smells like disappointment. A neighbor's child runs past, barefoot and covered in what might be jam, blood, or both. You head to the communal bakery, one of the few luxuries your block shares. You hand over your government-issued grain ration, a lump of barley flour wrapped in cloth. The baker tosses it into a communal batch, and hours later, you'll get a small, hard, blackened loaf. It's barely edible, mostly ash from the public oven's coals. But hey, it's warm, and it's yours, assuming no one steals it first. Breakfast? Let's pretend. If you're lucky, you get pulse, a thick gruel of boiled grains. It's what most poor Romans eat daily. Maybe there's a drizzle of olive oil. If you're unlucky, the drizzle is rat urine, and you won't know until it's too late. Meat? Only for the rich. Milk spoils too fast. Cheese or eggs? Only if you steal them from the chicken under the stairs. Your protein comes from beans, lentils, and dreams. You might visit the latrina, a public toilet where 12 people do their business shoulder to shoulder on a bench with holes. No dividers. The toilet paper is a shared sponge on a stick dipped in vinegar. You rinse, wipe, and repeat. No wonder nobody makes eye contact here. By mid-morning, you haven't even started work yet. But before you leave for your soul-crushing job, you pause. The street is alive, smelly, chaotic, dangerous, but alive. Kids scream. A street performer juggles knives badly. A merchant hawks fermented fish sauce as a cure-all. The city breathes, chokes, and burps in a never-ending symphony of humanity. Your landlord? Never seen him. Repairs? Don't hold your breath. If your building collapses, it's not a tragedy, it's a Tuesday. Fires, floods, sudden unexplained death, all common. You're a cog in a machine that sees you as replaceable. You're not a citizen. You're a warm body on a census scroll. Your value is measured in how quietly you suffer. This isn't the Rome of marble forums or golden laurels. Not the Rome of historians or Hollywood. This is the Rome of slums and soot, of crowded insulae and chamber pots, of grit and groaning humanity. You're not Cicero. You're not Caesar. You're a peasant on the 4th floor, praying the 3rd floor doesn't catch fire again. And your day has only just begun. Congratulations. You've survived your first Roman night without being robbed, choked by smoke, or crushed by your neighbor's drunken roll onto your mat. Not bad, but the gods are generous today, and you've earned the privilege of waking up to the sweet, piercing sound of yelling. It's not an alarm clock. It's never an alarm clock. It's your neighbor yelling at his wife, or the vendor below your window screaming about fish, or the chamber pot hitting the cobblestones after someone above you dumped last night's wine and body fluids out the window. Morning in ancient Rome doesn't greet you with birdsong. It assaults you with complaints, sewage, and the sour aftertaste of regret. Your eyes crack open to a ceiling so low you could punch it just by sitting up. You're lying on a straw mat shared with your younger sibling, your cousin, or possibly a stranger who paid your landlord 2 denarii to squat in the corner overnight. The air smells like feet, garlic, and mildew. For a moment, you wonder if you've died and woken up in Hades. But no, you're still alive. Unfortunately, your home, generously called an insula, is a Roman apartment building held together by wood, dreams, and flammable lies. You're on the 3rd floor, which is marginally safer than the 5th. Higher floors mean cheaper rent, and a better chance of dying when the whole structure inevitably collapses. Down below, the wealthy enjoy sturdy homes with indoor plumbing. Up here, you get rats, water leaks, and the ominous creaking of a building that sways like a drunk in the wind. You swing your legs off the mat and immediately regret it. The floor is damp, always damp. Water? Wine? Blood? Who knows? And the answer won't change the fact that your only pair of sandals was stolen last week. Now you're barefoot, stepping gingerly around the sticky patch in the corner where something unidentifiable has been festering since before you moved in. Time to wash up. Cute thought. There's no basin, no sink, no soap. You wipe your face with a damp cloth that might have once cleaned your landlord's armpits. Your skincare routine involves rubbing olive oil on your skin and scraping it off with a strigil, a curved metal blade that peels away dirt, oil, and the last shreds of your dignity. It's like buttering yourself like toast and then scraping off the crust. If you're lucky enough to live near a bathhouse and have spare coins, you might get properly clean later. But for now, hygiene is a luxury. You settle for splashing your face with whatever water's left in the communal jar and call it refreshed. Now, breakfast. Brace yourself. The Roman version of a power meal is ientaculum, Latin for don't get your hopes up. It's yesterday's bread, hard as marble, lovingly stored in a mouse-infested clay pot overnight. You soften it by dunking it in watered-down wine, which tastes like vinegar with trust issues. If you're feeling fancy, maybe there's an olive or a smear of garum, Rome's infamous fermented fish sauce that smells like low tide and failure. It's the ketchup of the ancient world, if ketchup were brewed from rotting mackerel. No coffee, no eggs, no collagen smoothies. Your breakfast has one job: stave off immediate death. It succeeds. Barely. You chew in silence while your neighbors scream about taxes, bread rations, or maybe the guy on the second floor who keeps sacrificing pigeons in the hallway. You don't ask. The rule of thumb in Roman tenements: the less you know, the longer you live. Once you've gnawed through your slice of disappointment and sipped your wine-flavored sadness, it's time to dress. Don't get excited. You own two garments: a tunic of scratchy wool and a threadbare cloak that's more whole than fabric. The tunic itches. The cloak stinks. Both have been repaired so many times they're held together by prayers and dreams of better material. Underwear? Hilarious. You tie a belt around your waist and hope nothing slips. Your left shoulder is perpetually exposed because the fabric won't stay put. The rich wear togas. You don't. Togas are for citizens, people with status. You're a pleb, a non-citizen, a nobody. If you wore a toga, you'd either be delusional or arrested for impersonating someone with dignity. You step outside and, bam, the full sensory assault of a Roman street hits you. Noise, vendors shrieking, street musicians torturing instruments, philosophers debating loudly. Someone, somewhere, is always screaming about cucumbers. The chaos is organized, smelly, and relentless. The streets themselves? Paved with stones and slick with everything. Animal waste, human waste, mystery sludge no one wants to identify. Rome has sewers, yes, but they serve the rich. Your neighborhood is self-cleaning, meaning rain occasionally washes the filth into someone else's district. It's a system. You walk carefully, avoiding puddles and people. A cart barrels past, pulled by donkeys and driven by a man who seems genuinely offended by pedestrians. There are no sidewalks, no traffic laws, just instinct, prayer, and the faint hope the gods are paying attention. You pass temples where people line up to offer sacrifices, coins, flowers, small animals, or desperate pleas. You've got nothing to give, so you nod awkwardly at Jupiter's statue and keep moving. He wasn't listening anyway. If you're headed to work, and you are, congratulations, it means you didn't starve yesterday. Work in ancient Rome isn't fulfilling. It isn't purpose-driven. It's survival in a tunic. You might be hauling bricks for the emperor's newest vanity project, or carrying goods up rickety stairs in a building that groans under its own weight. Maybe you're a street cleaner, a fish seller, a potter, or worst of all, a public latrine attendant, paid in pity and bronze coins to sweep filth off marble while your soul leaks out through your nostrils. The hours are long. The pay is misery. Your boss might beat you for fun. If you're a slave, you don't even get paid. You just work. Complain? You're whipped. Collapse? You're replaced. Die? Someone else gets your blanket. Midday approaches, and the sun is brutal. Rome's climate is hot, sticky, and utterly indifferent to your suffering. No shade, no air conditioning. Your tunic clings to your skin. Your sandals, if you have them, slap against the stones with every exhausted step. If you're barefoot, Your feet are slowly merging with the pavement. Lunch. Prandium. If you're lucky, it's more bread, maybe a scrap of cheese or a boiled egg, if your employer won at dice last night. You eat on a step, watching richer Romans being carried around in litters like mobile royalty. You chew, trying not to think about the sand and rodent hair you're probably ingesting. The smells intensify as the day wears on. Sweat, garbage, and garum. You pass a bakery and inhale deeply. The scent of fresh bread tricks your brain into thinking life is worth it. Then you remember, bread is taxed, your landlord raised the rent again, your water jar cracked, and your cousin is sick with whatever plague is fashionable this season. You keep walking. You keep surviving. Because in ancient Rome, survival is the entire point. After hours of back-breaking labor and mild sunstroke, you begin the treacherous journey home. Ascending your insulae staircase requires the precision of a seasoned acrobat. Each step groans underfoot like the building's final warning. The stairs, crafted from splintered wood and collective shame, claim lives weekly. You reach your door only to find a stranger already asleep in your corner. No questions asked. You simply lie down beside them, close your eyes, and pray you don't dream about the bucket. This is Roman housing at its finest. A flammable tinderbox where 6 stories of human desperation lean precariously over alleyways. The wealthy enjoy lower floors with better ventilation. You get rooftop living with structural integrity comparable to wet parchment. Fire safety. A dark joke. Open flames from oil lamps dance inches from load-bearing beams that haven't been inspected since Romulus founded the city. When, not if, fires break out, the vigiles, Rome's fire brigade, arrive just in time to demand bribes before lifting a finger. Augustus created them to prevent weekly infernos, but they're underpaid arsonists in uniform. Your belongings consist of one moth-eaten blanket, a chipped bowl, and perhaps a tiny figurine of household gods who've clearly abandoned their post. The air smells perpetually of boiling cabbage. Ironic since you haven't seen fresh vegetables in months. Privacy doesn't exist. The walls are so thin you can hear neighbors arguing, snoring, and relieving themselves with theatrical gusto. Children wail, dogs bark, and somewhere a drunk is murdering a flute melody. When rain comes, your ceiling becomes a sieve. When it doesn't, mysterious leaks still appear. The floorboards creak ominously as if plotting your demise. You've developed an instinct for when the building will collapse. That subtle shift in the wind, that new cracked spiderwebbing across the wall. The rodents have established a thriving economy in your walls, their tiny claws scratching out business deals at midnight. Yet somehow, life persists. You master the art of hanging laundry on swaying lines before thieves strike. You develop calf muscles of steel from daily water hauling. You learn which neighbors share stale bread and which ones steal chamber pots. There are fleeting moments of humanity, a shared laugh over a dead bird, an impromptu lentil song from across the hall. These fragile connections make the cage slightly more bearable. The rich build marble palaces. You inhabit a vertical coffin that will be cleared and rebuilt before your body grows cold. When the flames eventually come, and they will, you'll grab your pathetic bundle, whisper a prayer to indifferent gods, and run like the underworld itself is chasing you. Because in Rome, the poor don't get memorials, they get replaced. Thirst claws at your throat like a living thing after hours laboring under Rome's merciless sun. You crave water, cold, clean, life-giving water. But in this city of marvels, your survival depends on an engineering masterpiece that's always one cracked pipe away from disaster. Welcome to Rome's water wars. The aqueducts stretch across the countryside like stone serpents, bringing 200 million gallons daily from mountain springs. A triumph of civilization. Unless you're poor. Then it's a public fountain queue with your clay jug, praying some senator hasn't diverted the flow to his private villa. The water's cleanish. At the source. By the time it reaches your district, it's been through baths, latrines, and lead pipes that make your hands shake after years of drinking. Need to relieve yourself? The famed Cloaca Maxima sewer exists, but your waste probably won't reach it. Most gets dumped straight onto the street where it bakes into a biological hazard. That's why shoes matter. You're not walking on cobblestones, you're trudging through yesterday's dinner in its final form. Public latrines offer benches with holes and no partitions. Rome's idea of community bonding. Toilet paper? Meet the tersorium, a communal sponge on a stick soaking in vinegar water. You'll use it after the retired centurion and the 12-year-old olive vendor. Hygiene is a group project here. The baths should be your refuge. Over 800 across Rome, from Caracalla's marble wonder to your neighborhood's smoke-filled hole. You pay a quadrant to enter the steam rooms where senators and slaves sweat side by side, the empire's great equalizer. But don't be fooled. The rich get massages in the tepidarium while you scrape dirt off with the strigil in the corner. The caldarium will melt your face off. Heated by hypocausts, underground furnaces tended by slaves who sometimes cook alive down there. The water? A microbial stew of 100 bathers before you. People bleed in it, piss in it, but it's still the cleanest you'll get all week. You emerge pink and raw, only for street grime to reclaim you within minutes. When the aqueducts fail, earthquakes, sabotage, simple neglect, civilization unravels fast. No baths, no fountains. The Tiber becomes a soup of sewage and desperation. Riots break out over water access. The emperor stations aquarii engineers to keep the flow going, not for you, but because thirsty mobs topple governments. You drink pasca, vinegar water that burns your throat but kills the worst bacteria. It tastes like regret and makes your eyes water, but untreated water could kill you slower. The rich get snow-cooled wine from silver cups. You get lead poison runoff in a cracked vessel. This is Roman clean. Not sterile, not safe, but performative. The illusion of civilization maintained through public bathing while parasites writhe in your guts. The baths don't make you healthy. They make you Roman enough to keep the machine grinding forward. Tomorrow you'll do it again, because the alternative is dying stinking in the street, and Rome has plenty more where you came from. Let's talk about Roman food, not the decadent banquets of emperors gorging on honey-drenched dormice, but the grim reality of your daily sustenance. You're not dining. You're engaging in caloric warfare. Your diet revolves around pulse, a porridge so bland it makes unseasoned oatmeal seem like a delicacy. It's wheat or barley boiled into a glue-like paste, occasionally enhanced with a drizzle of rancid olive oil or a spoonful of garum, Rome's infamous fermented fish sauce that smells like a maritime disaster. This isn't nutrition, it's edible mortar holding your body together. Bread? Dark, dense, and capable of breaking teeth. The government's grain dole, Annona, keeps you from starving, but only if you're a registered male citizen. Women, foreigners, and slaves prey to Ceres and scavenge. The market Macellum is a symphony of desperation. Vendors hawk meat that's been sunbathing all day, fish so pungent it could be weaponized, and wilted vegetables discounted because even flies avoid them. You haggle over everything, fingers tied around your coin pouch. One bad purchase, and your stomach groans for days. Meat is a fantasy unless it's organ scraps or festival handouts. Fruit? Only when bruised and half-rotten. You chew slowly, not to savor, but because every bite must count. Street food offers dubious relief. Papini taverns serve stews of dubious origin, maybe lentils, maybe leather, always salty enough to preserve a corpse. Skewers of mystery meat require jaw strength akin to chewing rope. Honey cakes? Barely sweet, harder than bricks, and best soaked in wine to avoid dental casualties. These places reek of smoke, sweat, and stale oil, frequented by laborers, thieves, and veterans with empty purses. Fights erupt over portion sizes. Your meal might be stolen before you finish it. Storage is a losing battle. Your clay jars host more weevils than gray. Bread molds within hours, meat turns under the sun. You eat around the rot, scrape off the fuzz, and pretend not to notice the extra protein wriggling in your lentils. Hunger is a constant companion, gnawing, patient, louder than any growling stomach. Children learn early to ration bites. Parents go without so their young can swallow one more mouthful. When famine strikes, and it always does, the city's fragile food chain collapses. Grain ships delayed? Bread prices triple. Riots ignite. Bakeries are looted. Bakers are lynched. You boil tree bark, chew acorns, and other rats with newfound culinary interest. The elite, meanwhile, feast behind closed doors, their trash becoming your treasure if you're fast enough to grab it. This isn't eating. It's survival arithmetic. Every meal is a gamble against spoilage, theft, and your own weakening body. Yet, absurdly, food remains culture. You joke about bad bread and graffiti. You share scraps during Saturnalia. You pass down recipes thinner than the broth they produce. Because in Rome, even starvation has a hierarchy, and you're clinging to the bottom rung with greasy fingers. Religion in Rome isn't about personal salvation. It's a civic duty enforced by tradition and terror. Before dawn, you mumble prayers to the Lars and Penates, your household gods who've done shockingly little to improve your living conditions. Your offering? A breadcrumb and half-hearted gratitude. Neglect them, and maybe your child falls ill. Maybe the roof collapses. Maybe the gods just enjoy watching you squirm. Step outside, and divinity smacks you in the face. Street corners bristle with tiny shrines where lamps flicker over animal fat sacrifices. Temples loom, massive, marble, and meticulously maintained while your insula crumbles. Jupiter's statue stares down with stone eyes. You avert your gaze. Piety here isn't spiritual, it's social currency. Skip a festival, and your neighbors don't just gossip. They might accuse you of inviting plague. The pantheon is a bureaucratic nightmare. Jupiter runs the sky like a temperamental CEO. Juno micromanages marriages. Mars glorifies bloodshed. And Vesta's priestesses, the Vestal virgins, guard Rome's sacred flame, their virginity literally tied to the empire's survival. One slip, and they're buried alive. Religion here isn't faith, it's a cosmic HR department. Festivals force participation. At Lupercalia, half-naked men whip women for fertility. Saturnalia flips social roles for a day, your landlord serves you gruel, and everyone pretends it's equality. There's Robigalia for crop mildew. Yes, mildew has a holiday, and Conchualia for stored grain. Miss one, and suddenly your field floods or your baby won't stop crying. Foreign cults whisper in the shadows. Isis worshippers chant in candlelit rooms. Mithras followers stage underground blood rituals. The authorities tolerate them barely. But that new sect, the Christians, they refuse to sacrifice to Jupiter or Caesar. That's not just heresy, it's treason. Their executions make great theater. Superstition is your second skin. A black dog means death. Sneeze? Shout salve, to keep your soul from escaping. Dreams demand interpretation. Bird flights predict disasters. Even emperors consult haruspices to read sheep guts before battles. The dead don't stay gone. During Lemuria, you toss black beans to appease restless spirits. Forget, and shadows move in your peripheral vision. The grand temples? Not for you. Your religion happens in alleyways, coins at crossroads shrines, ribbons tied to sickly trees, amulets against the evil eye. A phallus carved on your doorstep might keep thieves away. When your baby coughs, you whisper charms. When the fever comes, you bargain. This isn't spirituality. It's survival calculus. The gods don't love you, they tolerate you. So long as you feed them, fear them, and never, ever question why the rich get answered prayers while you get rats in your grain sack. Justice in Rome isn't blind. She just prefers to look the other way when you're involved. As a pleb, freedman, or slave, the law isn't your shield. It's the blade pressed against your throat. Let's say someone accuses you of theft. Maybe you shortchanged a vendor. Maybe your neighbor's missing sandals. That's all it takes. No presumption of innocence here. The burden of proof is yours. If you're enslaved, forget trials. Torture is standard procedure. The logic? Slaves have no honor, so pain is the only path to truth. Whips, branding irons, the rack, your screams are just part of the process. Even citizens aren't safe. Legal advocates work for favors, not justice. Bribes change hands. Trials drag until witnesses disappear. The penalty scales with your status. A patrician gets exiled. You get flogged or crucified. That's right, nails through wrists, left to suffocate on a cross while birds pick at your living flesh. It's not just punishment. It's street theater to remind everyone who rules. Debt is a death spiral. Borrow grain for a sick child? Fail to repay, and you're imprisoned or sold into bondage. Your body becomes collateral. The system is designed to keep you straining, always one bad harvest away from chains. Women exist outside the law entirely. A husband can kill his wife for adultery. Fathers can execute children under patria potestas. Domestic violence? A family matter. Try complaining, and you'll be silenced by custom and threats. The prisons aren't for rehabilitation, they're waiting rooms for death. The Tullianum's dungeon swallows the accused whole. Dark, damp, forgotten. Innocence doesn't matter when the verdict was decided before you entered. And don't expect dignity in execution. Criminals become arena entertainment, thrown to lions while crowds cheer. The Senate watches approvingly as blood soaks the sand. It's not justice. It's a warning carved in screams. So you learn the rules. Stay invisible. Avoid eye contact. Swallow insults. Pray your name never catches the wrong attention. Because in Rome, the law doesn't protect people, it protects power. And you? You're just fuel for the machine. Death comes early in Rome, brutally, unceremoniously, and often anonymously. For you, a nameless pleb or disposable slave, the end won't be marked by marble tombs or poetic epitaphs. Your journey concludes in the puticuli, mass graves where bodies stack like firewood outside the city walls. No prayers. No markers. Just quicklime to mask the stench of 100 rotting corpses. Statistically, you won't see 30. Infant mortality claims 1 in 3 before their first birthday. Those who survive childhood face fevers that spiral into sepsis, minor cuts that fester into gangrene, or the slow rot of chronic hunger. Medicine? A joke. Your doctor might prescribe pigeon dung poultices or prayers to Phoebus, the goddess of malaria. When the end comes, you'll likely be found days later, stiff on your straw mat, the rats already holding vigil. If you're enslaved, your corpse is dumped like garbage. The puticuli pits swallow you whole, layers of anonymous dead decaying under the sun. No urns, no headstones, just the indifferent churn of decomposition. Free but poor? Maybe your family scrapes together coins for a burial club collegium to buy you a cheap cremation. More likely, you join the pit anyway. Your name vanishes faster than your body. The afterlife? The underworld is neither paradise nor punishment, just a dim, endless waiting room where shades wander unless appeased with rituals the poor can't afford. Neglect your ancestors, and they might return as hungry ghosts, lemurs, rattling doors and souring milk. But you won't have descendants to remember you. Your lineage ends here, in the dirt. Wealthy Romans build mausoleums with banquet scenes carved in stone. You're lucky to get a terracotta shard with misspelled letters. Some suffer damnatio memoriae, their very names chiseled from history. For you, no such effort is needed. You were never recorded to begin with. Yet pause for perspective. Right now, you're reading this in a world with antibiotics, clean water, and beds free of lice. Your life expectancy doubles the Roman pores. Your death, when it comes, won't be anonymous. This is the silent victory of centuries, the mundane miracles of modernity that let you outlive emperors. So when you sip clean water or pop an aspirin, remember, these aren't small things. They're revolutions. The Roman poor built aqueducts they couldn't drink from and died young in service to an empire that forgot them by sunset. You inherited their struggle and survived it. Let's end this journey where it began, in the damp, creaking darkness of your insula. The air still reeks of chamber pots and boiled cabbage. The neighbor's cough still echoes through thin walls. But now you understand. Rome wasn't built by emperors or generals. It was built on your broken back. You hauled the marble for temples you'll never enter. You mixed mortar for villas you'll never see. Your calloused hands stacked the stones of an empire that grinds you into dust before breakfast. History remembers the elite, their triumphs carved in stone, their feasts immortalized in poetry. You're a nameless casualty in someone else's glory. But here's the truth they'll never teach in the forum. Rome doesn't exist without you. The aqueducts dry up without laborers to maintain them. The baths crumble without slaves to feed the furnaces. The glorious machine of empire seizes when the nameless refuse to turn its gears. Tonight, as you lie on your flea-infested mat, remember this. You've survived. Against hunger, disease, and a system designed to break you, you've endured. That's more heroic than any gladiator's arena victory. When dawn comes, if it comes, you'll rise again. Not for glory, not for legacy, but because survival itself is your rebellion. So sleep lightly, peasant. Tomorrow, the empire will demand more blood. But tonight? Tonight you've stolen something precious, a story no historian will record, but one that matters all the same.